First of all, girl, why you look like you have 5 different filters on your video?
A, because I'm ugly, and B, because I kind of wanted to look like a cartoon character. Enjoy the show. Hello, Smarties. All right, today we're looking at a TV movie adaptation of The Picture of Dorian Gray, originally by Oscar Wilde in 1891. The movie copyright date is 1982, but I think it was released in May of 83. Anthony Perkins was super good as the Henry Lord character. The Henry/Harry character name is changed to Henry Lord for this movie. Very clever. Taking the place of Basil the painter, we have Sophia, the director. And instead of being a chemist, the Alan Campbell character is a photographer. None of the characters in the movie felt very deep, and I'm not very sure why. The script did all kind of feel like it was written very quickly without any care for the character arcs, so maybe that's why. The first thing I noticed was, this is a Rankin and Bass production. Now, if you don't know what that means, think of Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. Think of Rudolph, the stop-motion movie from 1964. So at any moment I wondered, are we gonna see the abominable snowman? Honestly, that might have made it more entertaining. Y'all, the movie opens with the most soft, soothing ballad, The Sins of Dorian. They were getting literal with the soundtrack. The opening scene is a lady grabs Dorian in an alleyway and she says, "You billed my husband 20 years ago." So immediately we know that this is a character that's taking the place of James Vane, who was Cybill Vane's brother who wanted to seek vengeance for her passing. So this lady grabs Dorian in the alley and Dorian says, "No, no, look how young and pretty I am. I couldn't possibly have done anything bad 20 years ago." And the lady's like, "No, you're right though." Okay, so she lets Dorian go, but as she's walking away, the lady's like, "Wait a minute, I bet you that is Dorian." Then the next scene is apparently Dorian is working with a director lady named Sophia, who is super nice. She promised to be in Sophia's movie, but Dorian immediately seems very vain from the start of this story as opposed to in the novel. Lord Henry becomes sort of like a fly buzzing around in Dorian's ear in the book, telling him how attractive looking he is and how young he is and how being young is all that matters. And that's actually what sets up Dorian to become really vain. Whereas in this, Dorian is immediately captivated by her own screen test and she asks to take it home. The director's husband, Henry Lord, asks Dorian to be his makeup model instead of being in his wife's movie, and he buys Dorian some expensive stuff, including a fancy apartment. When Dorian gives in, her screen test already looks a little older. I was surprised by that because she hasn't actually done anything bad yet. But to be fair, she does seem to suspect that the guy is eventually going to want to have an affair with her, maybe sometime down the road. So maybe the screen test is aging based on what she's thinking on the inside and not just what she's doing on the outside. She gets a crush on a jazz musician named Stuart Vane instead of an actor like in the book. When the original Dorian Gray has a crush on an actress named Cybill Vane, it makes sense for that character because Dorian has started to seek all kinds of new adventures and experiences. And what he likes about Cybill is that she seems new every night because she's in a different character on stage. Whereas the female Dorian goes after this jazz musician, this guy that doesn't really seem like he would be her type because he can't offer her a glamorous lifestyle. So I'm not sure it really made sense for her to go after him like that, and I'm not sure if it made sense for them to change the profession of the person that she had a crush on.
Why are there so many cuts in your video?
Because I get camera shy, okay? Stop looking at me.
You uploaded your video online. You're lucky if people are looking at you right now.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Her crush, Stuart? Sorry, I hear Mo Collins' voice from Mad TV when I see the name Stuart, okay? Stuart is unhappy because he got his wife pregnant. He complains to Dorian how he and his wife used to be best friends and he wishes they just were still friends. And I was going, you could be. Marriage should be between two really good friends. You're the one who said forever. And a good friendship can be forever. But whatever, Stuart. Hello. Dorian asks Henry Lord for a favor to get Stuart on TV to try to further his music career. But on that night, Stuart takes too many pills. We don't actually know what pills he's on, but he takes too many to be able to focus and actually go on live TV. Dorian loses interest in him immediately and cries to Henry, "I wanted him so much." But we've only seen them together for like 4 minutes of screen time, so the relationship wasn't well developed, and it's very hard to feel any sympathy for her. The relationship, or the so-called relationship, between her and Stuart felt so fast, but maybe it's supposed to feel rushed because one of the lessons of the book is about wasting your time in frivolous pursuits until you feel like you've rushed your life. But I'm not sure. Maybe they were just tight for time because the movie had to be short. I don't know. Stuart begs Dorian to forgive him. She says, "Go back to your wife." Stuart speeds away recklessly and crashes his bike into a semi. Dorian doesn't know about the accident yet, but she feels kind of guilty for being mean to Stuart. So she's kind of having a pity party and she's watching her screen test again, which already looks a little bit older and it looks a little bit unhappy. Henry visits Dorian to tell her that Stuart has died. The reactions here are so weird.
Huh?
So is the dialogue. Henry says there might be an inquest because Stuart crashed his bike and it might not have been an accident. What? It's not like his tires were slashed, so I'm not sure what would look suspicious or lead back to Dorian. While she's crying and asking Henry, "Oh, I'm not really a cold-hearted person, am I?" he walks away, which also was awkward.
Bye.
And clearly this version of Dorian did have some sympathy left towards people, which the book version did not have. After Henry leaves, she displays her sorrow by basically chewing a throw pillow. It was very awkward. She then watches her screen test again, which has aged more. There's also kind of a random narration throughout the movie at different places, reminding us of what Dorian's wish was and telling us when some time has passed. 10 years later, Dorian thinks she sees Stuart Vane's wife at a photo shoot, but I guess she was just hallucinating from a guilty conscience? She has a temper tantrum, and this makeup artist named Tracy is very nice to her. Then the narrator comes back and says Dorian was always seeking weird sensations and she traveled the world. And they play the cheesy song from the beginning, "The Sins of Dorian," while they show her face on the screen test getting older compared to her permanently super young looking appearance. Dorian freaks out about some very 80s makeup that Tracy puts on her and basically demands Campbell find another makeup artist. And look, yes, 80s makeup can be very upsetting, but it's not worth all that drama, okay? It's not. Tracy tells Dorian, "You destroy everyone in your life," which we haven't actually seen in the movie yet, so the accusation feels kind of sudden. It feels like the movie thought it had earned this argument scene, but it was kind of hollow. But to be fair, in the book, we don't see every relationship that Dorian has and ruins. We don't see everything that Dorian Gray does to ruin people's lives. Oscar Wilde kind of summarizes things by telling us that Dorian's reputation keeps getting ruined as people learn the truth about what he's doing and how he's treating people really badly. So maybe the movie thought that it had done the same thing in kind of showing us that one relationship that Dorian had ruined. The nice director lady, Sophia, visits Dorian and asks her if she's okay. They watch the screen test together and wow, y'all, there was so much makeup on her and they gave her yellow fake teeth as well. Fabulous. Sophia and Dorian have an argument and Sophia falls on Dorian's letter opener. Uh-oh. It was actually pretty sad. Dorian basically insults Alan Campbell, the photographer, until he agrees to help her hide Sophia's body. But then he shows up later and demands $100,000, which in 80s money is apparently over $300,000. Dorian and Campbell meet at an empty photo studio where Campbell has set up these automatic flashing cameras to take Dorian's picture while she's holding the suitcase full of money. They argue a while, he's drunk, he calls her a murderer, and when Dorian walks out, a man comes in and he assassinates Campbell. Then we see the opening scene again where Stuart's wife grabs Dorian in the alley. Later that night, Dorian calls Tracy, her former makeup artist that she was really rude to, and she's desperate to talk, but Tracy is pretty upset and she says, "Go to Belle." That's not exactly what she said. Dorian shows Henry the video. Henry asks where Sophia is. Dorian says she showed her the video and she had to protect herself. And Henry is like, "So you murdered her." And Dorian is like, "I had no choice." And Henry leaves, understandably upset. Then in the next scene, I guess we're in a convent? I laughed so hard at this part. Dorian looks like she's praying. She does the sign of the cross. And then the narrator goes, "Is it true that one can never change?" And he says Dorian longed for purity again and she was trying to redeem herself. So weird compared to the book. I mean, it's a lovely idea, of course, but It was such an unexpected change and so sudden, so out of character. 10 years later, Dorian returns to the city and she wants to talk to Henry, but he doesn't feel like it. She watches her screen test again, and of course, she is hoping that her charity work has reversed some of the aging. But as soon as we see it, we notice that her screen test self is wearing this bad, thin white wig. And so she's pretty much in shock and she's like, oh, look, my wrinkles. So she stabs the projection screen and falls down. Henry bursts back in. The screen test is paused on Dorian's now very young looking face, while the deceased Dorian looks really old. They did throw a nod to the book because in the TV movie, Henry looks at the ring on Dorian's finger, and at the end of the book, the rings and the jewelry on Dorian Gray are actually the only ways that the servants can recognize him. And the ending credits presents us with another opportunity to hear the soft opening ballad, The Sins of Dorian. For me, it was just okay. It was a little bland and everything seemed rushed. From what I've read online, every movie adaptation of this book changes major and minor things. Like the awful 1973 TV movie adaptation tried to copy some of the changes from the 1945 movie. Now, the 1945 movie had the inimitable George Sanders, rest in peace, as Harry, and it was well done, even though they added characters and changed things to take the edge off of Dorian's obviously very sordid lifestyle. It kind of seems like most of the movie adaptations try to make us think that Dorian wants to try to change his ways by the end of the story, which is not really what happens in the book. He only has the most fleeting idea that maybe he could become better and he could ask God for forgiveness. But then very quickly thereafter, he's like, or I could just destroy that painting of me so that I can stop feeling guilty. And that backfires. I'm glad I watched this, even though it did make me laugh a lot more than I think it intended to. And The Picture of Dorian Gray has actually been one of my favorite stories since I was a kid, so I'm disappointed that this movie didn't follow it very faithfully. I recommend just sticking to the original novel, and with all of these movie adaptations, I mean, they are what they are. They're movies and they change a lot of the stuff. Maybe I'll review some more in the future. I also have a review of the actual book. Hi! What are you doing, Smelly? Hi there! I like your big face. Oh, I like those flappy ears. I do. I like them so much. As always, thank you for watching. Please check out the Drunken Fish Writers Group podcast, and have a great day. The peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly. 10 years later. Check out the Drunken Fish Writers Group Prodcat, really? That sounds horrible. Have a great day, everybody. Crikey. I love you too. Whew, I think I'm blushing.